Sports betting in Ohio, ahead on Face the State. It is big business in the Buckeye State. More than $10 billion wagered last year alone. Now, some lawmakers want to rein it in. We'll look at how their Save Ohio Sports Act aims to do that. Plus, Cedarville University professor Jared Pinson on the economics of sports betting in Ohio. Two separate efforts honoring the service and sacrifice of the 3 Ohio National Guard airmen who died in a plane crash in Iraq. One helping students at Master Sergeant Tyler Simmons' alma mater. The other helping the families of the fallen through a fundraiser at a restaurant near their air base. Plus, Ohio leaders say 25% of kids miss too much school. Now there's a new tool to track the problem of chronic absenteeism. We'll show you how the state plans to use it to improve attendance. Face the State starts now. Thanks for joining us for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. Are you one of the thousands of Ohioans who like to gamble on sports? If not, you probably know someone who does. Since Ohio legalized sports betting 3 years ago, it has become big business, billions of dollars in business every year. The Ohio Casino Control Commission reports people wagered $10.3 billion on sports in the state in 2025. The American Gaming Association says Ohio ranks 4th in the nation for sports betting, behind only New York, Illinois, and New Jersey. But now some lawmakers say it has gone too far. They recently introduced 2 bills that would drastically impact how Ohioans bet. 10 TV's Libby Cathy explains what exactly the bills would do and how fans and critics are reacting.
I want to know that the outcome is determined on the field of play, not by the gambling markets.
3 Republican state lawmakers are pushing new restrictions on sports betting.
This act focuses on 2 important things: protecting Ohio consumers and protecting the integrity of the games that we love.
The Save Ohio Sports Act consists of 2 bills. One would cap wagers at $100 each, ban credit card wagers and promotional free bets, and restrict gambling ads. And people would have to place their bets in person, so no more gambling on phones.
If you're going to place a bet in Ohio, you're going to be at one of the casinos. No more on your cell phone, just anywhere.
Another bill focuses on the games themselves, banning prop bets, parlays, in-game betting, and all college sports wagers.
I think betting on college sports in this state, the bad and ugly of it, will make gambling addictions and mental health challenges far worse for college athletes, not better.
Last year, more than $10 billion were gambled in Ohio, generating more than $1 billion in sports betting revenue. But lawmakers say the cost to mental health is also high.
But we are subsidizing and we are financing mental health issues here in Ohio.
Many Ohioans not on board with restricting sports gambling just 3 years after it became legal.
I can control myself, so if we're all adults, we've already been doing it.
It's fun watching the games, just being able to sports bet and get a little money out of it, but you gotta control yourself.
Others see the problem.
Unfortunately for some of my friends, they're at a point where they can't stop doing it either. So I understand why they want to get rid of it, absolutely. It cannot be good for people's mental health or physical health either.
There's got to be a limit at some point, but I mean, if you do it responsibly, then I could see why people would be like, okay, well, yeah, that's too big of a limit.
That was Libby Cathy reporting. The process for these bills is just getting started. A first hearing has not yet been scheduled. Joining me now to talk about the economics of sports betting in Ohio is Cedarville University professor of economics, Dr. Jared Pinson, who also specializes in the behavioral impact of gambling. Dr. Pinson, thanks for your time today. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Dr. Pinson, if the Save Ohio Sports Act goes through, what would the impact be on sports betting in Ohio?
Well, the biggest one is just simply how people will bet. It's almost 100% of betting in Ohio is done mobile. And the next biggest one is just in casinos. And then there's a very small amount with sort of these kiosks and restaurants and bars. But you essentially will shift all of that gambling to in person. So it will dramatically reduce the amount of gambling that there is.
So just about everyone has a phone. So how easily could these bills, if approved, actually shut down mobile sports betting in the state? Could it be just like flipping a switch?
In some ways, yes. I mean, you're making it illegal for sports books to operate using mobile devices. Now, people can get around that using, VPNs, and there are ways to do that. But it significantly raises the cost to sports books from engaging, in this case, in illegal activity. So it is pretty similar to flipping a switch.
The state brought in more than $200 million in tax revenue from sports betting in 2025. That's at a 20% tax rate. Does that make it, in your opinion, more politically likely for these bills to fail when you consider the revenue?
I don't think the revenue side is what will make it more difficult. It's kind of like taking toothpaste and putting it back in the container there, because we already have people accustomed to how they are betting, and now you're telling them suddenly that you have to bet in person, or that they're limiting the amount of what you can bet and the types of bets. I think that's the bigger part. I know that $200 million is a lot of money, but you're talking about a biannual budget that is above $80 billion. So it is a small amount compared to that.
I guess would the other losers besides the state revenue be just the gaming sites themselves?
Yes, that's the other major loser in this particular case, because as is mentioned, Ohio is the fourth biggest state when it comes to sports wagering. Now that might change if California or Texas legalize, but it is a very large revenue pool for these gaming books.
Now, the governor has come out strongly against prop betting, especially in college sports. That's betting on individual player performance, and that's actually banned. Do you think that aspect of the bills could have strong legs legislatively?
I do think part of the bill is stronger than other. I don't see, at least of right now, a political will to completely eliminate mobile sports betting, but parlays, betting on college sports, particularly making sure that it's no bets are going on with any collegiate sports in Ohio, types of prop bets. Those are a little easier because now you're limiting the types of bets that you have, not that you can bet in general.
There were a couple months in 2025 when more than $1 billion was bet on sports in Ohio. As someone who studies this issue, does the amount of money people gamble on sports in Ohio surprise you, considering that it was legalized only 3 years ago?
It doesn't surprise me, and it's not a surprise as to when those bets are placed. The fall is the biggest betting season because of the NFL, and then you have February with the Super Bowl, and then the other big month is March with March Madness. But anytime you make an activity that was illegal and then you make it legal and there's an interest in it, you're going to see initially a big interest in doing that particular activity. And sports gambling, it combines things that people like. People enjoy sports. And the fact that we can do it mobilely and everybody has a cell phone just gives the ease. So it didn't surprise me, the amount that was wagered.
Are you seeing it kind of more level off now in terms of the spending?
Ohio is what we'd consider more of a mature market because we have had several years now. Now, it's not a mature market like Nevada, obviously, but we do see when states initially legalize, whether it's legalization in general or the types. So if you had just in-person gaming and now that you go to a mobile, we do see a spike in the amount that people wager, and then it does level off.
How serious is the risk of addiction to sports betting?
It's serious. It's the only behavioral addiction that the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, I always get that wrong, but they consider it the same as addiction as you'd see with alcohol and you see as drugs. It's the same sort of triggers, and there's lots of correlation between that type of behavior. So it is a serious thing. It is growing. It's still a relatively small number of people that have gambling disorders, but the more that people are able to gamble, the more likely that is to occur.
Does it depend on the age of the gambler?
People who are younger and younger males in particular are more prone to these types of disorders than older individuals. This shouldn't surprise us. Young men are more risk takers just in general. And now you give them an ease of access to being able to do this activity, as well as something that they really enjoy, which again is watching and participating in sports. But that's the cohort that is most at risk. Though research is starting to show that gambling disorders is rising amongst females as well. But it's still mainly a problem with men under 30.
I'm curious, Dr. Pinson, what grabbed your attention about the behavioral impact of gambling to kind of make you dig into that issue?
I teach on college campuses, and I've done so for a while. I was at a university in New York City, and I was living in New Jersey, and those were some of the first states to legalize after the 2018 Supreme Court ruling. So I had lots of conversations with people that I knew, or students, with this type of behavior. So that's what got me interested in it.
What aspects of that do you study? What do you find? What do you find the most interesting about the behavioral impact of gambling?
To me, there are two areas that I look into. One of them is the impact on state revenue. What happens when neighboring states change their laws regarding gambling? How does that affect, your own revenue? So that's one aspect. The other one is just how people view the behavior itself. Do they view it as benign? Do they view it as something that they can control? Or is it something that they themselves recognize is a problem?
So it's kind of like that vice versus virtue kind of argument in terms of the morality, perhaps, of gambling as well?
Well, while I do care about the morality of it, I know that argument doesn't go far with people. So it's more about setting up the guardrails of saying, hey, is this a behavior that you think is wise? Are you setting yourself up with proper limits? Or is this something that you're keeping secret? Because when we keep things secret, that tends to show, at least internally, that we are doing something that we probably don't feel comfortable doing.
Dr. Jared Pinson with Cedarville University, thank you so much for your expertise on this topic today. I do appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up next on Face the State, the governor honors the 3 Ohio airmen who died in a crash in support of the Iran war effort, while this restaurant near their airbase digs deep to help the families left behind, and so do its customers, a community connection.
While the rest of the state goes on about our lives, the families of Captain Koval, Captain Angst, and Master Sergeant Simmons are left with a hole in their lives that will never go away.
Governor Mike DeWine shared a message on social media in support of the families of our fallen airmen, calling on the people of Ohio to make sure they are never forgotten. A local organization plans to make that happen in support of Columbus native Master Sergeant Tyler Simmons.
The way he impacted the community, his life, his service, we want other people to see that. We want our young people to see that you can make an impact when your life is about service, when your life is about putting others before yourself.
The group 100 Black Men of Central Ohio plans to honor him with a Memorial Military Scholarship. It will start with this year's graduating class at Eastmore Academy, where Tyler graduated. 2 students will each receive a $1,500 scholarship. Tyler's family has shared with 10 TV how important mentorship was to Tyler, so this truly honors his legacy.
He loved his job, he loved the Air Force, he loved his country, he loved his family and his friends, and it's exemplified by people that you see here today.
Also, through the month of April, a family-owned business just 4 miles from Rickenbacker Air National Guard Base is doing what it can to support the families of the fallen airmen. The Little Italy Ristorante in Groveport has been serving service members from Rickenbacker since 1979. That's where the 3 airmen were based with the 121st Air Refueling Wing. The owner says they wanted to help their families as much as possible, so the restaurant is donating 15% of all sales from last Tuesday and Wednesday to the Rickenbacker Military Families Foundation for the families of Captain Koval, Captain Angst, and Master Sergeant Simmons.
It was no doubt, no question that we had to do this. We wanted to raise money for these families in the honor of these airmen who, sadly passed serving our country.
What's your goal for fundraising?
I don't think we have a goal other than to raise as much as we possibly can.
Customers can also round up their checks and make their own donations through the month of April. Dorsey says they will have final fundraising numbers after that, but he did tell me the 2 special days last week were very successful, with a lot of customers making donations on top of their checks. At 10 TV, we're remembering and honoring those 3 Ohio airmen killed in the refueling crash over Iraq. From the final mission to a community welcoming them home for the final time, we honor the lives, service, and sacrifice of these fallen airmen. You can watch our special, Heroes Homecoming, the final salute, right now on 10 TV Plus. Last month, Ohio Senators Bernie Moreno and John Husted introduced a resolution in the Senate honoring the lives and service of those 3 Ohio service members who were killed. And this past week, I asked Senator Moreno about the progress of the war with Iran after negotiations broke down last weekend and then the start of the American naval blockade of Iranian ports in the Strait of Hormuz.
Of course, now Iran is attempting to hold the world economically hostage. So President Trump's taking the actions to make sure that cannot happen. But just to be clear, Doug, this is for the world. This isn't for America. We are a massive oil exporter. We don't take oil from the Middle East for the most part. This is helping out the countries in Europe, China, India. And I think what you need there is a coalition to make certain that Iran isn't able to hold the world hostage.
I also asked Senator Moreno his message to you, his constituents, who are paying close to $4 for a gallon of gas. He said he understands your pain and said they're working to bring relief in the months ahead.
We will get gas prices back down again under $2 a gallon. That's our target. That's our goal. That's what we're going to work towards. And I'm hoping that by the 4th of July, this is over and we got gas prices back to where they were just a few months ago.
Moreno says the U.S. is fighting economic warfare with Iran right now. He says blockading Iran's ports is choking off any money going to the regime. Still ahead on Face the State, tracking attendance. The governor rolled out a new online tool to cut down on chronic absenteeism in our public schools. How he hopes it will get everyone involved to make sure kids get to school. Now to a push to make sure Ohio students are going to class. Governor Mike DeWine says too many students are missing too many days of school. So he just launched a new tool to take on the challenges of chronic absenteeism. It's the statewide attendance dashboard. The goal is to get everyone involved to get Ohio kids to class.
You can't solve a problem unless you know you have a problem.
Governor Mike DeWine says the new statewide attendance dashboard will help schools, communities, and parents identify the problem and act.
The dashboard will help schools understand attendance patterns and intervene early if needed. It will also help the community understand what's going on.
Department of Education and Workforce Director Stephen Dakin emphasized that early intervention. He explained the dashboard tracks attendance data at the state, district, school, and grade level. The goal is to start community conversations.
To think about what communities can do to assist schools, assist parents, to make sure our young people are attending school.
Ohio Education Association President Jeff Wensing is a longtime high school math teacher. He says the reasons for chronic absenteeism are varied.
Because they were caring for their younger brothers or sisters, or for an ill parent, or they had to work a job, unfortunately, to support their family and pay an electric bill.
The OEA supports the dashboard and the potential to identify the root causes of chronic absenteeism.
The sooner you can identify that and then support the student in that family in that area and make sure they get to school, the better it's going to be.
The governor says everyone has a vested interest in making sure students are in class.
Students become tomorrow's leaders and innovators. When our children succeed, communities succeed.
The website is live right now. It is attendance.ohio.gov if you'd like to see how your district or school is doing. But be aware, Dakin says about 24% of districts are not yet sharing their data, including Columbus, Hilliard, and Dublin City schools. Dakin says for many it's because of technical reasons. Others have chosen not to. He says the state is working to get all of them on board. I talked with Ohio Education Association President Jeff Wensing on Wednesday ahead of the governor launching the dashboard. Here's more of his perspective as a teacher and OEA president on the challenges of chronic absenteeism and how to confront them. As a longtime teacher and now president of the OEA, how big of a problem is chronic absenteeism?
Well, from my time in the classroom, you definitely can tell when students arrive to class, they're in class, there's a big difference in their ability to be successful versus the students that are chronically absent. So living that firsthand, I've seen it, and definitely the students that have to get makeup work if they're chronically absent, I understand the difficulty that they have because they're generally getting a lump sum of work without very little support because they miss class.
And it sounds like, it's not necessarily that the kids don't want to come to school, right? There are other reasons.
Oh, definitely. Life gets in the way. A lot of students, I'm a high school math teacher, so at the high school level, a lot of times some of the students that were chronically absent were missing because they were caring for their younger brothers or sisters, or for an ill parent, or they had to work a job, unfortunately, to support their family and pay an electric bill. So those are real issues that some of our students are facing, unfortunately, at the high school level.
The governor announced in his State of the State address that he would be launching the statewide attendance dashboard. What do you think of that step as a way to identify the challenges and potentially help cut down on the absentee issue?
Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate the work of the governor and the work of the department. We understand that chronic absenteeism it's like it takes a village, right? It's not a secret that when students come to school, they have increased their odds of being successful in English and math and graduating. When you show up, you basically do better. So any help that we can get in the school setting is greatly appreciated. You know, the administration has to do their part. The educators have to do their part. The parents have to do their part. The students have to do their part. So sometimes it's difficult for students to get to school, but working together to create interesting lessons and interesting school spaces, that's what's going to help get students to school. That's going to help students be successful.
In a nutshell, do you do support this effort to identify and be proactive?
Absolutely. I meet with the department, the leader of the department, Director Dakin, monthly, regularly, and we talked about this issue the last time that I was over there, and we've emphasized that it's not a single individual's issue or problem, that it's going to take everyone to get this solved. We have to lower chronic absenteeism. It's been coming down since the pandemic, but it's not coming down rapidly enough. And we need to make sure that we support our families and our students as educators, as administrators, as superintendents, and what our families need to help get their students to school. We really got to work at providing that.
That was Jeff Wensing, the OEA president. Finally today, a legal battle over big money is now headed to appeals court. The Columbus Zoo is challenging a ruling that could force it to pay a fee to Liberty Township on every admission ticket sold. The zoo filed the appeal in Delaware County. This is a story we've been telling you about for months now. The zoo argues it is not an entertainment venue, but rather a nonprofit focused on conservation and education. Township leaders argue the zoo qualifies as a large event venue, which would allow them to charge up to $1 per ticket. Judges agreed when ruling in their favor back in January. Nearly 2 million people visit the Columbus Zoo every year, and according to the township, hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars are spent on EMS and fire runs.
There's an opportunity that they should be partnering with the community to help support the infrastructure needed to have operate a safe and effective event venue.
Liberty Township has until May 4th to file a response to the appeal. Thank you for joining me this week for Face the State. I'm Doug Petcash. I'll see you back here next Sunday at 11:30. Have a great day.